Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're just completing what we had in the same chapter, still talking about contracts. Today we have to use the mic. You can speak up, you can answer questions, you can make your own comment, and you can read from the slides. We still talk about the terms. And we said term is any provision, a term is any provision forming part of the contract. And if we have the contract, we have terms. These terms can be titles, quality, description, can be names, can be price. It can be anything. These terms can be included in the contract. They can be expressed, stated in the contract itself. Some of the terms can be implied. But those implicit contracts forming part of the contract, despite the fact they are not stated in the contract. Like we're having some students, but those students, they're not here today. They are absent for some reasons. They're not attending the class. But those students are part of the class. They can come next time. But today we have about 17, 18 students, or 20. But we have 25 students in this class. We cannot exclude those 5 students who are absent for some reasons. All of them are included. Did we finish this slide last time? Okay. We have explicit terms and implicit terms. As I said again, those implicit terms, we can understand them that they constitute part of the contract, despite the fact they are not stated in the contract. We can understand them by the de facto situation. We can understand them from the procedures, from previous dealings, from the law, as we're going to see now. If you look here in this slide, we have many terms in contracts are implied by law. Did we have this slide or not? Did we finish with it? Good. Okay, implied. We have implied terms in law. Implied in law terms. These terms, as we had last time, are not stated in the contract, but they are stated in the act, in the commercial act. We understand those terms as part of the contract. Like an example we had last time, the Sale of Goods Act 1979. Sale of Goods Act 1979. This is an act which was made in the UK in 1979, and it focuses on sale. And because we know that sale, it's the most common contract, sale. Now, this act is implicit in any contract, unless if we here exclude it. Can we? Yes. Next chapter we're going to see that in some cases we can exclude. What can we exclude? Terms. We can. Because we have sources for commercial law. Source number 1 is contract. Source number 2 is the act, the code, the law. So we look first of all at this contract, because what can commit me and you is the contract. It's an obligation for both parties. A and B have some obligations because of the contract they have signed. So I would come back. If I have conflict with someone else, I would come back to the contract. I would look what's stated inside the contract and outside it. What we have here, these can be the rules which we have to accept and we have to use in our life. If we cannot find a solution in the contract, then we can go to the act. This act can be commercial law as it is. It can be sometimes specific statutes, specific act or code. Some of them can be for sale of goods. Some can be like here, we had last time, it can be for other things like a transaction, lease transactions. It can be for trade practices. For many types or many aspects of commercial life, we have to go back to the act itself, to the codes. if we cannot find a solution in the contract. This is what is called implied in law. I think, did we finish? Yes, we finished with this. But today we have to look at how we can set aside the contract. I guess we started with this last. Oh, I was asking, you said it 21. Okay, that's fine, no problem. What, we finished 22, slide 22? Okay, how can we set aside the contract? We said from the beginning that we assume that this contract is intact, it's legal, it's fully accepted by both parties. A and B, both parties, signed the contract, they completed it according to their own wills. They have the intentions, offer and acceptance, consideration. Everything was in place and everything was perfect. In this perfect situation, can we set aside the contract? Maybe. We have three different situations in which one of them can be void. The contract itself, from the beginning, this contract can be void as it did not exist from the first minute. This situation that we have missed one of the conditions. Maybe there was no intention, no consideration. Maybe the descriptions did not match. The quality was not the quality wanted. The contract can be void as this contract was not existed from the beginning. Number two, voidable. It can be voidable. This contract is fine. It looks to me initially it's okay, but one of the parties can void it. Any one of them can void it, declare a contract ineffective at their wish. Any one of them can say, well, this contract, it's cancelled. We don't need it anymore. Why? Because we have some situations can affect this contract, as we will see next slide. Third part, which is unenforceable contract. It can be unenforceable, the contract, if this contract here is affected by a situation, like if it was illegal. I mean, the subject, the purpose was illegal of this contract. This contract, even if it's fine, if it's okay, if it's perfect, but the purpose of the contract was illegal, then this contract cannot be enforced. Like someone selling drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Something is illegally. Something was not supposed to be done. And the contract itself, it's okay. But the purpose was not. Fine. The purpose is against public policy. In this case, this contract will be unenforceable. Once we come to this point, we're going to talk about it in more details. Like, for example, selling slaves. Can we sell slaves? No. Because this is against public interest. It's illegal. It's a criminal case. Then, now, even if there is a contract, this contract will be unenforceable. No one can force it. Let's look at the first situation. I have a feeling that I did explain this. Well, that's fine, no problem. Because other class, male class students, still behind. You're doing well. You've done it. It's okay. We'll do it again. The first case is misrepresentation, in which we can define it. We can define it as you look at this. I need someone to read it for me. Any one of you? Anyone here? Because we have the mic. Go on. Speak up.
Misrepresentation, false statement of fact made by one party to another and has the effect of
inducing يحث أو يدفع.
Inducing that party into the contract.
It's a false statement. And I mentioned last time, it's a false statement of fact. This false statement of fact made by one party to the other. And this false statement of fact made the second party to accept the contract. If there was no statement from the beginning, then it would not be a contract. Without this statement, the second party would not have accepted it. So the false statement of fact is the reason why the second party have signed it, inducing that second party to accept it, to sign it. This misrepresentation of false statement can be false statement inequality, description, like someone lying about the quality, someone lying about the quality of the machine, of the items, someone did not give accurate information about description, nature. I think I gave example of the paint, cement, the sugar. Even within the same items, we have different qualities. The same item, like computer, how many types of computers we have? How many qualities we have? Hundreds. They are not the same quality. So buying a computer, it does not mean that I can buy any computer in the market. No, I can choose the quality I want. I can choose the specification and the nature. Then this is the case here. If we have a false statement in the quality, then the second party would have the right for what? Look at this here. Finding misrepresentation allows for remedy. Rescission or causing damages. Rescission, cancel, end the contract, or so the second part, first party makes a false statement. The second party would have two choices. One is rescission, cancel the contract, and the second is causing damages, getting money, compensation. Misrepresentation can be by words, it can be by conduct, it can be by actions, it can be by implicit acts. I guess that we have the last point, which was about the statement of opinion. It's not like the statement of fact. It's not the same. Someone giving a statement of opinion, someone stating his opinion by saying, well, I think or I believe that this item has a specific quality, and he stated that quality. In this case here, statement of opinion does not stand like a statement of fact. It's not a fact. When saying that, well, I believe that this bottle, it's not water inside it. It's a gas, petrol. Wait, just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's my opinion. Then you cannot take this as a fact. You can take it as opinion. I can tell, or I can say, well, this color of this hole looks really nice. I like it. But some of you would say, well, no, it does not. It doesn't look good. It's an opinion. At the end of the day, it's not a fact. So this opinion cannot be used to cancel the contract, cannot be used to have compensation, because someone giving his own opinion, the second party, even if he depends on that, it's up to him. You can check, you can examine the items, you can look at the transactions. You should not depend on what he says. It's his opinion. Unless if we have here a specialist knowledge, a party making his own opinion built or based on special, not fact, it's not fact, it's opinion, special knowledge. Someone is expert, like for example, car technician, buying a car, and the one who sold you the car, he is a car technician. Or somebody selling computers, and he's a computer engineer, and he's a specialist in repairing computers. Then you can depend on what he says to you, like this is a good computer and has a good quality. And you depend on what he says. This case here, his opinion can be taken as a statement of fact. In fact, it was not a statement of fact, but it can be taken as a statement of fact because this knowledge is equal to the fact. Do you get the point?
So it can be used as an evidence in lawsuits?
It can be used, yes, as an evidence. So who can evaluate this? It's not the parties. It's a judge in the court. he can evaluate the situation by saying, well, this is a statement of opinion, but is equal to a statement of fact. We cannot leave any case to the public. We cannot leave it to the parties, because if we have two parties in one case, everyone would look after himself or herself. But when it comes to the judge, he has to be objective, neutral. He would look at both parties' interests at the same time. Did we look at mistakes? No. Yeah? No. Okay. The second situation here is a mistake. Anyone can make a mistake in the contract. Anyone. How many times do we make contracts in our life? Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, millions of contracts. Maybe on a daily basis sometimes we make contracts. If you are a merchant and you have your own business in the market, then you can make contracts on a daily basis, thousands of contracts with many customers. Then do we have mistakes? Of course we have mistakes. And sometimes you buy something, you get extra money, or you get less than the money you want. Sometimes you get the exchange, to exchange the item, but then the item you exchange here, you replace it, it's not the thing you want. Sometimes even the size you're looking for, you would like to buy a dress, the size you're looking for, it's not the size you had from that shop. You can take it back. I mean, you can imagine that many mistakes can happen. The items, the machine, the food, any item we can sell, we can buy, can have a mistake. We can have a mistake. But this mistake we can define it as incorrect understanding. Go on, Jada.
A mistake is an incorrect understanding by one or more parties to a contract and may be used as a base to invalidate the agreement.
Okay, mistake can be done by one or by two, by all of them, by all parties. But this mistake can be used to invalidate the contract, can be used to make this contract as it was not there, to cancel it, to delete it, to invalidate this contract. But we have three types of mistakes. Number one is called unilateral mistake. Number two, it's called mutual mistake. And the third is common mistake. Let's begin with number one, unilateral mistake. Unilateral, it's made by one party, only one. Unilateral uhadi. Unilateral mistake is one party to the contract is mistaken. One has made a mistake. It can be the seller, it can be the buyer, it can be the wholesale merchant, it can be the retail merchant, it can be anyone making the mistake. One party, not the second. Not the second. What can we do in this case? Look, imagine yourself as a judge and you have two parties having conflicts. One of them has made a mistake, but the second did not. And now there is something wrong in this contract. How can we solve it?
If the other party, the mistaken party, if the other party was knowing about the other party has a mistake and he's kept silent and showing him and he get the advantages of his mistake, the court can default or can breach the contract. There is no contract.
Like she said, there are many phases of this situation. First of all, they have to negotiate between themselves and then turn to court and judge. And in this phase, like she said, the unmistaken party has, if it was aware of the situation of the mistake, it can't be remedied or compensated.
Okay, in most situations, the court would uphold, support the contract to stand, to stay. Contract has to be in between the two parties. We can fix it. We can amend. We can delete some of the terms. We have to uphold such contracts. Uphold yad'am, yusnid. We have to keep this contract because we should not cancel such a contract, especially if it costs lots of money. If this contract existed between the two parties and it's about a transaction which costs millions or maybe thousands of pounds, then we have to uphold it, such a contract. We have to keep it. By all means, it's up to the judge. He can look at external factors. He would look at the reasonable situation. What should he do in this case? By all means, we will look at similar situations in the past. If we have a precedence in the past and we had the same solution, we can take it. We can make a creative solution based on justice and equity. Justice and equity. Unless the judge can determine that one of them here, he made a mistake, but the second party he knew about it and he kept silent. He did not take a step to prevent and to stop that mistake. In this case, the court will uphold unless it was determined that the non-mistaken party was aware of the mistake and it tried to take advantage. Like, for example, go on. Like buying cement. I know that people buying cement now from Egypt to Gaza because they want to build houses. Now this cement have different qualities. You know this. It's not the same. Different qualities. Now imagine that me as a buyer buying 20 tons of cement from Egypt, and the seller knew that the cement I bought was not the same quality I wanted. And I didn't know. I'm just a simple person. I don't know much about this cement. And I've taken it. I did not examine it. And I was going to use it. I was going to use it to build my tower. Then later on I discovered that this cement did not match the quality I wanted. Now from the beginning, the second party, the non-mistaken party, he knew about it. But he did not tell me that. He kept silent. In this case here, I can sue him. I can have a rescission, can cancel the contract, I can take my money back. Well, you have to prove the case. It's not easy. You have to prove that the second party, the non-mistaken party, he knew about it and he kept silent. This is not an easy situation. You have to look at the intention. If that second party have the intention or not, if he knew or he doesn't know. It's not an easy case, I know this. I mean, we have to look at the general situation and we try to fix this contract and keep it and uphold it. And if we cannot, then we cannot. We can cancel it. But how can we apply justice and equity? How can we do? We have to look who's the mistaken party and who's the non-mistaken party. The mistaken party made a mistake, affected me in a bad situation. I lost money. But then how can I compensate myself? I can go back to the second party, non-mistaken party, and I can, we can look at the balance between them. We can take it from one person, we can give it to the second person. We can look at this case and apply justice. But sometimes here we cannot approve the case. A mistake, imagine any mistake can happen in the contract here. We have to fix it. Like we have an example. Identity. Need somebody to read it? Go on. Here. Any one of you.
A contract may be void or void if there was a mistake in the entity of the contracting party.
Identity. If there was mistake in the identity. شخصية المتعاقد. You make a mistake sometimes in one of the terms. You make a mistake in the quality, in the price. You make a mistake in location. You make a mistake in many aspects. But in some cases you make a mistake in the identity of the second party. Does it happen?
Yes.
How? Go on.
Like delivery transactions.
Delivery. How? What do you mean?
If you are a seller, you want to deliver this certain product to the customer, the other party, you deliver it to someone else who didn't request this product, this extra product, for example.
Okay.
This is a mistake. Maybe lying for legal issues or something, like getting another personality and buying something.
Yes, like.
Just like stealing or something like that.
Yes, انتحال شخصية ايش يصير؟ Someone presuming that he is the contracting party, but he's not. But this is not a mistake. A mistake can be done sometimes. It can be like this. It can be what Jaydat said. In this case, someone getting something does not belong to him. An item does not belong to me. I should not take it from the beginning. One of the cases like this was a mistake in the identity. A mistake in the identity. It's not always about selling and buying. And even I can buy a service. Can I?
Of course.
Yes. I can buy a service from a company. And this company, like for example, want to hire an accountant. I want to hire an accountant. But I wanted a female accountant. She can speak French and English at the same time. From the beginning, I stated the purpose. I want an accountant from your company, and this accountant can speak English and French because it has to be she as well, not a man, because she will be working in a female situation. Like with some females in a special private company. Like for example, hairdresser. We have a company of hairdresser, coiffure, and we have all of those ladies working, like all of them females. I cannot just get a man to work in the middle in that company. It has to be a female. She can speak English and French because our customers speak English and French. Then what can we do here? We have to have that person and that specifications. If the company sends me a man, I would not accept. If the company sends me somebody speaks English and does not speak French, I will not accept. Because the identity, شخصية, as requested, exactly, it has to be here. Plaintiff المشتكي, plaintiff has to show, if I was the plaintiff المشتكي, has to show that the identity I wanted of the second party was of a vital importance at the time I signed the contract. I would have to show from the beginning. I cannot say like I can sign the contract with you, with your company, then later on say, well, I didn't mean this. I meant that I want someone to speak Hebrew or someone to speak Hindi. No, it's not. I have to state from the beginning here, plaintiff have to show that at the time of agreement, he believed the other party's identity was vital important. In this case here, I can refuse. I can end the contract. I cannot say, well, I want compensation. For what? A mistake in the identity. I would have to get the second party sign the contract with me within the same atmosphere, within the same framework I requested, as stated in the contract. But it's not like the credibility. If you make a mistake in the credibility of the other parties, this is not sufficient. Like, well, assuming that the second party has no credibility, then this is why I would like to cancel the contract. How can you assume something like this? Even though, well, it's not, as long as the second party is dealing with me in a nice way, as long as the second party is committed, and she is doing her part in the contract, then I cannot allege that she has no credibility. It's up to her. It's her life, her situation. As long as she does everything in accordance with the situation in the contract, that's it. It's done. It's fine. There is no problem. Fine? Go on.
Mistakes, are mistakes necessary to be on purpose?
No, it's not. Mistake, it's not something, a mistake is a mistake with no intention. Well, but it's a mistake usually when we say mistake, it's not by intention. If it's by intention, it becomes a fraud, deception. It's not a mistake. Then a mistake, anyone can make a mistake in life. Then, as I said before at the beginning, that we have to uphold, we have to support, we have to keep the contract. If it's deception, then
identity mistake seems to me like it's on purpose.
No, it's not. It can be sometimes by mistake. It does happen by mistake. Like, the contract itself was not so clear. A mistake on one party, like I assume a situation, like I assume that my company employing females only, then I want someone else to work in my company, then I would assume other companies would understand my situation. Like for example, at the Islamic University here, we have male classes and female classes, isn't it? We do not mix. In this case here, when we employ a female to work as a cleaner, where's she going to be working? In the female section. I can assume this. I cannot say, well, I want a male cleaner and to work in the female section with them. It's not like we can assume situations sometimes. We have an identity to match the situation. Second type of mistake, it's a mutual mistake. A mutual mistake. A mutual, it can be done by both. A mutual, what does it mean? By both. It's done by both parties. Both of them has making the same mistake. Do you want to read it for me?
Mutual mistake. Both parties of a contract are mistaken as the terms. Each believes they are contracting to something different.
Both of them have making the same mistake, believing that they have contract to something else. Whether going to be the same situation as we have at the beginning, unilateral mistake or mutual mistake, it's the same result. It's a mistake. It's not a deception. It's not by intention. We have to help both parties to uphold the contract. We have to keep this contract because we don't want to impede يعوق. We don't want to impede business in the market. We want to help merchants to complete their own business. Then the court usually tries to uphold such a contract here if reasonable interpretation can be found. We can find a common ground. We can find a compromise between the two parties. We can find an understanding between them later on. They can sit down together with a judge, with a mediator, and they can make their own minds. They can accept to deal with this mistake. How? It depends on each case. Fine? But we cannot say like in this case here, if we make a mutual mistake in judgment, like we had in the last slide, we can have sometimes mistaken credibility. Credibility or judgment, it's something not feasible. It's not feasible. But sometimes have feasible implications, something impractical. If we have a judgment, mistaken judgment, like I judge a situation, like I assume that we have the cameras working, but they're not working maybe. Like assuming, judging here, any case, any situation, assuming that we have bought half a ton of gold, half ton of gold from China. But this gold have different carats. Have carats? Do you know it? Different carats. Then it's not the same. I mean, each type of the gold costs different amount of money per scale. Per scale. Then I can make my own judgment, but my judgment cannot be the true fact. It's not a fact. I can make a mistake in the judgment, and this mistaken judgment can it be considered as a mistake?
Yes.
Yes. Well, okay, if somebody makes a mistake in judgment, can we cancel the contract for this reason? Can we?
It depends on its consequences.
Depends. On what?
Its consequences. Whether they were feasible, sensible, etc.
Okay, let's see the solution for this. Can you read it? Go on. I know.
On a mutual mistake.
Speak up.
A contract based on a mutual mistake in judgment is not voidable.
It's not voidable. It's not voidable.
By the party that is adversely affected.
It's not. You cannot void it. A judgment, it's not something feasible. I judge a situation here, like assuming my opinion was right. It's just my opinion. Assuming the result would be better, but it's not. We cannot build sometimes we cannot build evidence on just opinion. We have to build it on fact. I cannot take what you think in your mind as a fact. It might be a fact, it might be materialized as a fact, but it might be not. It depends on each case. Like, I can analyze any situation as economic analyst, or as business analyst. I can analyze a business situation, but my analysis can be true fact, can be false. It's just analysis, judgment. The last type is common mistake. Common mistake. A mistake can be made by anyone in the same situation. Like standing here, making a mistake today, anyone else in my place would make the same mistake. Anyone. It's a common mistake. We have many things like this in our life. Common mistake. Both parties hold the same mistaken belief of the fact. Both of them believe that this is the fact, but it's not. And this happened most likely between merchants in Gaza and merchants in Egypt, importing goods through tunnels. Those goods, they get them here. Merchant in Gaza and merchant in Egypt, both of them making the same mistake, believing the items we have imported would be suitable for such buildings. Would be suitable, like for example, as I said, the paint, the glass, the cement, the iron, the stones. When you buy them, both parties believe this quality is the quality wanted, but in fact anyone in this situation would make the same mistake, but it's not the quality really wanted in a normal situation. It's not, and people use it. It's fine, it becomes something normal. Like هو الخطأ الشائع. Many of us making mistake in our life, believing that this is fine, this is okay. Why? Because everyone is making the same thing in the society. But this does not make it right. It's not true. It's not. It's a mistake. It's still a mistake. So in this case, because everybody is making the same mistake in the same society, then it's fine. We just, close an eye. Do not look at it. Leave it. This will not affect the contract. Common mistake is not here. Will not affect the contract unless what? Go on, read it.
Common mistake can only avoid contract if the mistake of the subject matter was fundamental to render its identity different from what was contracted, making the performance of the contract impossible.
Okay, in one case only we can void this contract. Mostly if we have a common mistake, a mistake can be done by anyone in society, anyone in that situation, it's fine, just leave it. It's not a mistake because anyone can make it. Unless we have a fundamental mistake. I mean, was fundamental to render its identity different. Fundamental was essential, was important. This affected the contract in a bad situation. If this mistake affects the contract in a very bad situation, in which the identity, in which the subject matter of the contract, it looks something else, then we cannot accept it. We cannot accept it. I don't have any example in my mind, but you think of any item, especially talking about, for example, building materials. When you import them, in building, the construction itself, you have different styles of building. They need specific materials. And especially if you would like to build something which can be used as a laboratory, you need a specific cement quality, an iron, and a special paint. Everything has to be according to the quality. Now, people importing cement from Egypt, having 50 tons to build such lab. 50 tons of cement imported to build such a lab. That cement, as people buying it from Egypt every time, building their homes. It looks to anyone, it's fine. It's not the same quality. This cement comes from Egypt, comes from Turkey, comes from China. It's not the same quality. It's not the same level. Then you can use it. Sometimes people, what they do, they just increase the amount, can increase the amount of cement to compensate the lack of quality. Because the quality is not good. Sometimes the sugar is not sweet enough. What can you do? Instead of having 1 spoon, you can have 2 spoons of sugar. Just have to compensate it. It's like the brown sugar and the white sugar. Is it the same? It's not. Which one is better? Brown sugar. It's better. It's not so sweet as the white sugar. It's not. It's more healthy. Anyway, without sugar is better anyway. If you don't use it, it's much better. Everything is black. It's more healthy. Anyway, so the quality, sometimes you have to compensate the quality by increasing the amount. If the quality wanted, even if it was a mistake, because people here, most people in our society, most of them don't know the difference between brown or white sugar. Believe it or not. Most of them, they have no idea. Okay, not only sugar, and many things in our life even. They don't have much of the taste. It's a common mistake, or it's fine, it's accepted. They don't know. You buy 10 kilos of white sugar and 10 kilos of brown sugar, it will not the same quality, not the same sweetness. But people still think it's the same. It's a common mistake. But sometimes if this would affect the contract, the subject matter, because if we need this sugar to manufacture biscuits, and these biscuits would need a specific amount of sugar and a specific type. If we have, even if it's common mistake, and this would fundamental to render يؤدي its identity different from what was contracted, then this contract would be invalid. It can be invalidated. It's up to the party who would get the benefit out of this. He can invalidate it. We have many examples in our life. I cannot have things all the time in my mind, because if you go to the market, you will witness lots of things, lots of cases. Like for example, the crisp. When you buy the crisp, many have people buying the crisp, many types of the crisp, made in Egypt, made in Turkey, made in many other countries, bringing them to Gaza to sell them here. No, okay, leave it. Give another case. Buying soap, sabuna, shampoo, many types, the same with the same name, the same but have different brands, different companies manufacturing it, different countries, not the same quality. Like having the Head and Shoulder a few months ago from Turkey, and it costing only 7-8 shekels, and in the market it costs 20 shekels or 18 shekels. It's not the same quality. Then if we have a common mistake, it can be accepted by all people, it's fine. But sometimes you need a specific item. In this case, if we have a mistake, even if it's a common mistake, we can cancel the contract. It depends on all the situation here. It depends on the case. What we have, what we need the item for, what the consequences would be, how much would it cost. We have many factors would affect each contract. Okay? Do you get what I'm saying? Yes. Good. Now it's going to be easy. This slide much easier what we have. We have two situations. One of them it's called duress, and the second it's called undue influence. Duress, it's not the same. They look like the same. For some people, they mix between them, but they're not. Completely, they're not. Duress is threat of harm, and this is a feasible situation, realistic situation, happens in some cases. Somebody can read it. Go on. What's your name? Delia. Okay, Delia.
Duress is a threat of harm made by one person to compel another to do something. Compel another to do something against his will, or judgment to a transaction without real assent.
Simple case, simple situation. One A would make a threat of harm to B, to make a contract. Otherwise, if he does not make it, then he would fulfill his threat. He would take an action. Like we have a case here, Mr. Barton and Mr. Armstrong. Armstrong threatened to kill Barton if he does not sign the contract. If you don't sign the contract, you will be dead. This is going to be the last day of your life. Then are you going to sign it or not? Most likely, not everybody. You're going to sign it. Are you? You're going to keep your life. Yeah. Some people do not. They just spend their life getting money, making business, and then they're going to lose their life in a few minutes' time, acting in a fool way. But here, that if someone signed a contract under the threat, what do you think the situation would be, the consequences? Invalid. Is it? Why is it? You signed, but you signed it. Come on. You signed a contract with me, but you signed it because I threatened to kill you if you don't sign it. Then you signed it. I pay you the money. I got your car. I have your car, and I paid you the money as you requested, as it's equal in the market, exactly. But you did not want to sell it, but I said, well, if you're not going to sell the car, I'm going to harm you. Then are you going to sell it or not? If you do, then this contract will be invalid contract, as it does not exist. But you have to prove this case. Why does it exist? Why it does not exist? This contract, as it's invalidated. Why?
Because we missed important situation.
Which is, it's not that once you sign the contract, today I have a piece of paper. It has my signature and your signature. This is approved, as we have offer and acceptance, intention and consideration, and everything is fine. Now in this case, we have no intention. Even if he signed it, he has no intention. He did not want to do it, because you've taken away his intention by trying to kill that person if he does not sign. Now in this situation, the problem is how to prove. How can I convince the judge that I signed the contract, but I signed it under pressure? Maybe. Oh, come on. I'm going to say, well, come on. Can you wait just please for a minute? I'm going to record it. Doesn't have it like this. It's not. Sometimes you miss the chance. You cannot prove it. Sometimes you can. You can have a witness. You can have it recorded. You can have it by implications, like by indications. What do you mean by indications? It's not easy. This case, I can prove that this house was mine. I did not want to sell it, but because I was under threat, my neighbor wanted to kill me if I didn't want to sell it. I can prove it. Like, for the past 2 years, my neighbor was attacking me, and he wanted to buy my house, and have many witnesses. For the past 2 years, he has
made some statements that he wants this house.
He made some statements, and people witnessed this. But at this minute, specific minute, when I signed the contract with him, I had no witness. But I can prove it by, and even the money, the cost, the amount, how much it cost. Sometimes, no, it can be taken into consideration. Because no one, if you don't want to sell your house, why did you sell it? Come on. If I have a claim in the court saying that, this is my house and I sold it because I was under threat. I was under threat. Now I want it back. No, if I was not under threat from the beginning, why did I sell it anyway? Isn't it? We have some indication. Judge is not stupid. He or she will look carefully at the case, will bring many witnesses, would have to make sure that this case is a true case. Like, that man has to prove, and it's your responsibility. If you are under threat here, an innocent party has to prove. It's your responsibility. It's not the judge who can look for the evidence. It's you. You have to look for an evidence here to prove that what? Threat was made, and that was the reason for entry into the contract. It's the threat. Make you go and sign this contract. Otherwise, you would not have signed it. Now, if A has the proof that he was under pressure and he signed the contract because he was gonna kill or be harmed by the second party, then the second party can prove the opposite. Every one of them has to bring the evidence. I can bring my evidence, and he or she can bring the evidence. Which is the strong evidence the judge can take? Like saying, well, the second party can bring here the onus of a proof. Can you read it here? Anyone here? Go on.
The onus of a proof then shifts to the other party to prove that the threat had no effect in causing the party to enter into the contract.
Second party, if I prove that I signed the contract under threat, I did, and the judge believed me, then the second party can prove the opposite. Later on, the onus here of a proof shifts from me to him. He can prove that, okay, well, I threatened him of harm, but he did not sign the contract because of this. He signed the contract. At the time when he signed the contract, he has the full intention. He wanted to sell me the house or the car. I did not force that person to sell. He has the full intention to do so. Now, this is a very unique case, sometimes can be, because this can happen in our life, but this can be difficult to prove. Unless if you have, as I said, witnesses, and we come into an area which is really difficult. Looking at intention, it's something exists inside ourselves. I cannot know your intention unless I have some indications. Like I know today, like you have the intention to attend the class because you love to study. I can assume this. You attend the class because you love to study commercial law. It's a nice subject. It's amazing. Assuming this, unless you prove something else. If you don't attend the class, I can understand because I can see all of you in the class trying to answer a question. You are awake, looking at me, at the slides. You are doing well. Unless you have something else in your mind. So I can know the intention by some indications. You might not like the class or the subject or me, well, which is fine. But then, that's fine. then it's something inside the human being, the intention. Something exists inside you. I cannot easily understand what's inside every human being without looking at the indications. Now we're going to go to the next slide, which somehow looks like this. Somehow. It's the undue influence. It's not a jurus. A jurus or tahdid. Threat. Undue influence. Influence. Effect. تأثير. But it's undue. فيش توازن. Undue influence. Two parties. A, B. Having undue influence. One of them is strong. And the second is weak. No balance. Like if we look in politics, for example, negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, strong and weak. There is no balance of power. Same thing, that's negotiation, that's life. In law and even in politics, the same thing. We have negotiation. One is strong and one is weak. The strong one takes an advantage of his position, and the weak will surrender. Say no. Will not say no. Cannot say no. This is the case here. Undue influence in which one party. Go on, Abu. Speak up.
One person taking advantage of a position of power over another person.
Okay, one is taking advantage, position of power. Like can be sometime here, lawyer and a client, husband and wife. And this is not the whole situation. Like sometimes the wife can be more strong than the husband. Sometimes, what I'm saying, the solicitor and a client, parent and child. Sometimes it's not. It can be the opposite. The child has strength, power, can affect his father in a bad way. But in most cases, we have undue influence in such situations. The law presumes that in certain special relationships, such as between parent and child, solicitor, اللي هو lawyer. In the UK they call them solicitor and barrister. Solicitor in office, barrister in court. Lawyer and client, husband and wife. We have a special relationship. One is taken advantage. Sometimes can be even between teacher and students. One student can have his own business. A teacher going to buy something from that business. Like, I want it cheap, otherwise you will not pass the exam. Isn't it? It's not a bargain. It's abuse. It's undue influence. Like exercising the influence from one on the second part. It's an exercise of influence, and this would affect the contract negatively. In which, if we have such case, do we have full intention? Yes or no? Do you have intention?
The weak party might not have the intention.
Okay.
Because they have no other choice.
But you can accept, you can refuse. It's not a force. Force is duress. This is not a force. This is undue influence. تأثير, but not force.
So, both of them have intention.
Both have intention? Yes? What do you think? Both? No? Yes? That's a good point. Go on. And?
They know that we are afraid of them, and they want them the better things.
If it was you as a judge, what can you do? You have a case between father and his son. They have a contract, buying something. One of them is buying some items from the other. Both of them working as merchants. But the father exercised his own power, influence over his son. Then the son later on, after 1 year, came to complain that his father abused him. Maybe the lawyer and the client, and the lawyer, Muhammad, and the client, they have a strong special relationship. Husband and wife. Husband has forced his wife to sell her gold for him. It happens. And he got the money. Like later on, after they separated, she claimed that she wanted the gold. She accepted to sell him the gold for nothing, because he influenced the power. It's not a power, it's the influence. Because she did not want to upset him. She wanted to satisfy her husband. Then she gave him the gold for little amount of money, for free. It's a contract, but it's under undue influence. Later on, after they are separated, then she can claim it back. Will the judge accept this case or not?
No, she has the intention. She does it by herself. We didn't force it.
Are you sure?
Yes, we didn't force it.
Okay, we have some other situations, especially in Gaza here. People like looking at the heritage system. If we have the money left behind after the father passed away, this money and these properties will be divided between his children, males and females. In some societies, like in Gaza here, some people, what they do, female has nothing, or she might get half for what she's supposed to get. Like if she's supposed to get 50,000 dinars, they can give her 10,000 dinars and say, well, that's enough for you. Is that just? Is that fair? It's not. Of course it's not. She might accept it because she does not want to upset her brothers. She wants to keep that contact with her brothers. But inside herself, she's not happy. She does not have a full intention. She can cancel it at any time. She can cancel it. Later on, she has the right to complain against it. Now, in such case, undue influence, as I said, it can be sometimes teacher, student, lawyer, client, husband, wife, father, child. In such cases, as an equitable doctrine, مذهب العدالة, the court has the discretion to vitiate such a contract. So it's up to the judge. Decision is in the hands of the courts, the judge. The judge can take a decision based on equitable doctrine, مذهب العدالة, based on justice, equity, fairness. It's up to the judge, examining the situation and see if there is a need to cancel this contract or not. Maybe not. Maybe what I can do if I was a judge, I would compensate. How? I can take money from A and pass it to B. I can take some items from A and give it to B, because that's equity and justice. It depends. Some say in some cases we cannot find this special relationship. It's not. What can I do? Like, what's your name? And who's your best friend here? We don't have. Is she your best friend? If you hesitate for 1 second, that she's not. Anyone here add 2 best friends here? No? No best friends. Okay, no, I believe you. That's fine. Okay. Haneen and Didi? Okay. Anyway, if we don't have this special relationship like husband and wife, father and son, we can have sometimes a relationship like between Haneen and Didi. This is based on trust. It's fine, she's Didi, isn't she? Okay. Now this type of relationship, this is special. Friendship, do you trust her? Do you trust her? No. If she asks you for 5,000 dinars, would you, if you have the money, if you have money and she asks you for 5,000 dinars, would you lend her or not? Sure. Maybe not, I don't know. In the real situation, might be not, it's not. Why do you say that? Because you don't have the money now. We do have sometimes such special, if they are really strong friends, special relationship exists. And this can be based on trust, confidence. And I know that sometimes some friends, some of them, they trust each other more than the family members had to. Yes, isn't it? You can talk to your friend about things you cannot talk to your mom and your sister. You can trust her in your money, in your life, more than you trust your sister. Then if she asks you to make a transaction with her, and both of them merchants in the market and friends at the same time, friends can exert some kind of influence. Like if she asks you for something, you will not be hesitant to say no. You cannot say, because she's your best friend, you trust her, you have a strong relationship, then we can presume in this case even the same thing, that we have influence. Your best friend asks you for 20 shekels, only 20 shekels, you will not say no. أكيد مش مصدق كده. In this case, if we cannot find a special relationship, we can compensate it with trust, confidence. We can assume that we can find influence. And this is undue influence. One of them is stronger than the other. In this case here, this contract, the whole contract under undue influence, will be subjected to the judge. He or she will look at the case, will consider it, and see if it's possible that we can vitiate it, invalidate it, or keep it as it is. Most likely, these cases will be upheld. This contract can be upheld, and then we can compensate some parties. It's up to the discretion of the judge. He or she can use his mind, justice, and fairness. Okay, thanks very much for your time, and we're going to complete what we have next time.